afternoon, folks. Today I'm going to show you how to turn 3 very basic ingredients, white bread flour, salt and water into delicious crispy French baguettes. Baguettes are often an intimidating bread to bake, but it's actually quite simple. It just needs patience because it is a timely process. There's no such thing as a quick baguette. To start off with, you're going to take flour and you have to use a scale or some sort of accurate measuring device because it's critical to get your ratios correct. The baguette works on a 75% flour to water ratio. I'm going to try and get 2 decent sized baguettes out of this. So I need about 600 grams of flour, and 600 grams of flour. And that we're going to need to add 450 grams of water. To that I'm going to add about a teaspoon of salt, maybe a little bit more just for taste. And obviously not forgetting the critical part, the sourdough starter, which is also just flour and water that's been allowed to have the cultures grow. I add about half of my sourdough starter into the mix, and we'll top up with a bit of flour later to make up for the extra moisture as needed once we start to knead the dough. Right, then you get your hands dirty. It's one of those things with baguettes, you're going to get dough on your hands and it is a very sticky dough. That's probably one of the biggest challenges with making baguettes. There's no oil in this mix and that makes it a very sticky dough. But that adds to the delicious crunchy crusts that you get that baguettes are known for. You're going to knead for about at least 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. You can speed that up by using an electric mixer if you have a dough attachment for your mixer, or if you're lucky enough to have a Kenwood chef or something like that with the bread attachments. Just remember to use a relatively low speed if you use the electric mixer. As I said, it's a sticky dough. It's going to remain sticky throughout the process. That's probably the biggest challenge with making baguettes, dealing with the stickiness. If it's too sticky, this is a little bit on the very sticky side. You can always just sprinkle on a little bit more flour, but remember, it's important to keep the dough quite moist, so you don't want to be adding too much flour during this process. When you've kneaded it quite well mechanically for about 10 to 15 minutes, and you've got a nice ball of dough that balls up nicely, the consistency is the same throughout, then it's good to go into the resting phase. You can see there, it makes a nice ball. It's going to be quite a springy dough. When you press it in, you can see it pops back out quite quickly. There's a lot of elasticity in here. That's an almost perfect baguette mix. And now the patience kicks in. You now need to rest the dough for 15 minutes before doing a stretch and fold. You do that 3 times before then putting it away to rest for at least 6 hours, or preferably overnight. The dough's been standing now for 15 minutes. You can see I've covered it with some clear plastic just to stop it from drying out. Just take that off, and we're going to do the first of 3 stretch and folds. So yeah, like I said, dough sticky, a little bit of flour on your hands helps. Peel it away from the edges of the bowl. So you get the whole ball out in one nice big piece, as you can see, nice and sticky. And you stretch it, fold it, put it back together. You do that for almost 4 or 5 times. Stretch and fold, stretch and fold. Last time, stretch and fold. Sticking to me a bit, but yeah, just let that go, and back in the bowl. We're going to cover that up for another 15 minutes. like I said, we're going to do that 3 times, and then the dough is ready to be rested for at least 6 hours, but preferably overnight. Morning everybody, we're back here. The dough's been rested well overnight. I've already taken it out. Unfortunately I forgot to film the removing it from the mixing bowl, but we've got one baguette rolled out already, and I'm ready to start with the second one. Just one thing to remember: when you remove the dough out of the mixing bowl after letting it proof overnight, work with light hands. Don't squash it and squeeze it. You want to keep the sort of air bubbles or the gas that's built up in the dough in there as much as possible. Anyway, make sure your surfaces are well floured, that nothing sticks too badly. And I want to show you how you shape your actual baguette. So you start with the ball of dough, and then you start working that into. We want to try and get a nice rectangular shape. I want to fold that once just to get it more rectangular, more even, so we have even thickness all the way throughout. Stretch it nicely. Stretching it. Try and get a nice uniform rectangular shape. That uniform thickness all the way throughout as far as possible. That should do. Then we fold that in once. Fold the other side over. This side where the fold is referred to as the seam side. But when all said and done, we're ready to go to the oven. Make sure that the seam side faces downwards. Now we're going to roll it a little. We work, start from the middle and then roll your way out to the outsides. It's fine if it takes on a bit of a dog bone shape at some stages, some points throughout this. We even everything out at the end. And don't worry if it's not perfect the first time round or exactly uniform. Part of the artisanal baguette is that everyone looks a little bit different. And there we go, ready to go. Now that's got a rest. I want to put that on the baking sheet next to the other one. Those need to rest about another 10-15 minutes or so before going to the oven. The oven has been preheated already. You're going to get your oven nice and hot up to about 240 degrees and get some steam going in there. So you get a little bowl of water in there as well. Right, we're back again. The breads, I've transferred them to the oven tray now that's been coated in flour as well to stop it from sticking. The final step before the baguettes are ready to go to the oven is the scouring process. You need a very sharp blade. I just use a surgical scalpel. Be careful with this, it is extremely sharp, but you can get this at any pharmacy or so on. You take the bread, and what you're doing with the scouring is you're telling the bread where you want it to rise out from. So you're cutting lines into the dough, through the surface of the dough. Don't worry if it misshapes a little, it'll stretch back. Let's do 3 cuts on this one, and we'll do 4 cuts on this longer baguette. 1. Then once the scouring is done, if you have a little spray bottle like this, they come in quite handy, but otherwise you can just sprinkle by hand. Just get some water sprinkled into your hot oven, just get a nice steam going. There is also a tub with water in the oven, but let me just show you as we steam up the oven. It's almost ready now. We're at 240, waiting for the light to go off, but let me just get the steam going nicely in the oven. Close that up again. I'm going to give it another 5 minutes or so just till it's at full temperature. Alright, the bread's now ready to go into the oven. The oven's at 240 degrees. We've got the water bowl in. I'm going to just quickly re-steam it again just for extra steam. You've got to work quickly now because we don't want to lose too much temperature. Let's get the tray into the oven. And the last bit of extra steam, and that's that. 15 minutes now with the water bowl in the oven, and then you lower the temperature to 220 for for the last 15 minutes with the water bowl removed. Okay. Right, and there we go, half an hour later. Nicely browned, crisp crusts. You can see the little air pockets in the crust. And the scouring we spoke about, there we have the marks. You see here, where that's peeled out over there, over there, over there. That's what we cut the little slits into the bread for. Crack that open and you can see the steam's pulling out of this. It's got lovely big air pockets in there. That's a perfect baguette. Enjoy.